Hello everybody, this is Draylar. Today we're going to be looking at creating an item in Fabric that uses a custom model. So with this you could say make a cool sword or do some sort of other item model. I don't really know what the use case would be, but it exists if you want it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new item. No need to create an entire class, just I'm going to make my sword based off an icicle, so I'm going to call it maybe Icicle Sword. And of course item takes in new item settings. I'm going to set the item group to combat. My mod ID is model testing. Alright, so pretty easy. Nothing complicated there, just get that out of the way. So now we're going to have to make our model. I'm going to be using Blockbench for this. Blockbench is just a voxel modeling software that happens to have Minecraft capabilities in it. I like to go to perspective and then align myself to east. So I think north would be to the left, and it just helps for positioning the model and the player, although there are utilities for that we can look at later on. So for my sword, again, I'm kind of trying to make an icicle design. So first I'm just gonna kind of make what I think an icicle would look like. Maybe down a little bit. I think that looks good for now. Might want to scale it up a little bit. This is 3 blocks by 3 blocks here, so of course the middle is 1 block, so that gives you a sense for scale. I think I am going to actually make this a little bit bigger. The vanilla sword I believe is 16 pixels, or 1 block. But it's pretty small in the player model, so it looks kind of weird. I'm making the hilt here. Make some sort of grip. Not really sure how I'm going to do this. Something like that. Give it a little cap at the end. I think I'm going to make the hilt black because the icicle itself will be a light shade of blue and white, and I want something to contrast that. Maybe we can pull this out a little bit. And we do it in this 2D mode just so we can get a general shape out, and then after we're done with the general shape we can just switch perspectives and then give it depth. I'm going to add a tiny bit of detail here. Just give it a little bit more life. I think this is 3 wide. I want this to be 2 wide. Unfortunately, it doesn't really line up well. Grab this piece from over here. Kind of hard to grab. Scale this guy down. I think that looks pretty good. I'm sure I could do some more on the hilt right here, but I don't have a ton of ideas at the moment. So I'm going to switch back to normal perspective. I'm going to drag our sword over to the middle. It helps a little bit with aligning it to the player model later on. I think I'm just going to make everything 2 wide here. This part on the hilt can be a little bit bigger. And see, I'll make you and these 2. Pull out a little bit. When you're making a model, you can't have anything smaller than, say, 1. So something like this, 0.5 will not work because of the way Minecraft textures things, just so you're aware. Kind of a pain, but it works. This looks kind of weird, so I'm going to try to just add a little bit more detail here. That didn't really fix anything. Now for the icicle. I don't need anything crazy, I just don't want it to be flat and uninteresting. Maybe we can pull this guy out, bring him to the bottom. Fortunately, he kind of pushes out too far. Let's get these guys here. I think that looks pretty good. I would like to do something with this flat edge here, but I don't have a ton of ideas for it. One thing I could do, maybe, is add a gap. I think that would look kind of weird. Maybe I'll just pull this guy down, bring you out a little bit more. There we go. That looks a little bit better. And then I'm just gonna copy these 4 guys I just put over there and move them to the other side. Change it so it doesn't look like I did exactly what I just said. That looks good. I think the hilt could use more work, but I don't really care about that too much right now. One thing I could do is if I grab this guy, I believe I can make him a little bit smaller, and then if I press space and move it, you can actually move it in quarter increments. That looks much better. And then move him down here. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I think that looks alright. Let me just check how it looks on the player model. You can press display up here, and then just move it around. I want to make sure the hilt is big enough and it doesn't look too small. That looks pretty good. I think it could be a little bit longer, but it's probably fine. Next thing we need to do is add a texture. If you press Control A, you can select everything, and then go over here, create texture, turn template on. I'm going to name it maybe Icicle Sword Confirm. Just UV maps everything. And go to Paint up here, top right. I usually use the paint bucket just to mark out certain areas, and then go into a image editing tool like Paint.net to actually make the textures look good. So for my icicle, I'm going to choose kind of a light blue, be around here. Just going to fill all this stuff in. For the hilt, I'm going to do probably like a dark purple blackish kind of color. I don't want it too purple, but maybe just a little hint. Yeah, that looks good. For the grip, let's see, gotta find a color that matches. That doesn't match. I think I'm gonna go back to the blue, maybe do a little bit of a darker one. And then I'm gonna go over to the really bright white side. Maybe we should even do a silver for that. Kind of like right here. It's a little bit too... say that looks decent. Now for down here, I think I'm going to choose the same purple color. Blockbench has a weird issue where you sometimes can't color certain squares. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the UV map and just see not that. Try to figure out where it's being textured from. Looks like it has a texture, it's just displaying weird. I think these guys underneath it are what I'm looking for. It's nice you can draw directly to the map if you so need to. There we go. Maybe give the top one a lighter purple color. Looks kind of weird. Yeah, I think that's good. I'm going to save it to my desktop. Gonna go to that texture I just made. I'm going to use Clip Studio Paint. You can use Paint.net as your free option. I find that Clip Studio Paint has a few nice texturing related tools that can kind of help, which I will show right here. Need to select color gradient. So now all of our blue is selected, so that's the top part right here. I'm going to go over here to the airbrush tool. I think for this I'm going to use tone scraping. So I'm going to select the color I just got. I'm going to get a little bit of a darker color. Going to run over it. You can kind of see it's randomly adding that different shade. Let's go a little bit lighter. I want a really white, not that white. That's better. I'm going to save that. If we go back to Blockbench, we should see our changes here. Pretty nice. I think that's a fairly good start for an icicle. Now I'm going to work on the purple areas. Deselect that, select purple. I'm going to use the color spray for this. I find it a little bit harder to use, but can sometimes look better. You can see it kind of adds a gradient. But it's a really big brush, so you kind of have to click far away. That might not be a big enough change. Change the density down a little bit, maybe particle size down. Save that. Wasn't really a huge change. I don't think I like that. Let's go for a really, really obvious white to contrast the purple. That's better. Not sure where the edges are, that probably didn't select them. Good. Now I'm going to work on the hilt. I'm going to add streaks of silver going down it. If I can figure out where it is. is this thing right here. I'm going to take my G pen, select a color, get it a little bit darker, make my brush size small. That's the effect I was looking for. That looks better. You see it kind of wraps itself down on the handle. Looks kind of cool. This blue part, we can add a little bit to it. I think it's this guy right here. Probably you as well. Some lighter tone in there. A little bit darker. That works. Alright, next thing we're going to do is position our model on the player, so when they're holding it, it's not 30 meters out. We already did this earlier, so it looks actually pretty much perfect. Maybe I can bring it a little bit into their hand. A little bit up. Third person left, same thing, left-handed. This is when you're holding the item in your hand. How does it look? I'm going to scale it down a little bit, maybe bring it up. I don't really care about first person left. The frame is obviously how it looks in a frame, and obviously we don't want it to look like this. Going to rotate it -90. I find this kind of annoying. We could actually rotate it not that direction. Not sure why it's not letting me do that, but okay. Let's just call that good to go. GUI is obviously how it looks in the GUI. Again, I'm going to make this -90 so it's facing us. I'm going to scale it down. Save it a bunch so we know it's saved. Close out of this, go back to my modding environment. So for item models, it's going to be resources, assets, mod ID, models, item. I'm going to drag my icicle sword into here. Blockbench sets up the texture location relative to where you were working, so obviously we're going to need to change that. I'm going to create a new textures folder. Within that, an item folder. Add my icicle sword file to that folder. Then our location is going to be model testing item icicle sword. And set the particle to that as well. Going to run my client. Everything should work. Sorry about that. Evidently does not like full screen Minecraft. We added it to combat. You can see our sword here. It looks pretty good in our first person view. If we F5 it, you can see our sword. Purple looks alright. I could probably change it to a deeper shade of black. But yeah, that's general gist of things. You can do that for pretty much any item you can hold in the game. I'm sure you can come up with a lot of creative ideas for what to do with that. Of course, you could also do it with armor or, I don't know, blocks. Next time we might work on animating it, or maybe adding entity models. I don't know yet. Thanks for watching.